All right. Well, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. It is officially here. I hope you all had a safe and happy New Year's Eve. And I'm so happy that you're joining me today. So today we're talking about how to make 2025 your year. Okay. So many of us go into this new year and we have thoughts of change on our mind, right? So some of us make New Year's resolutions, while there are other of us who don't care to make New Year's resolutions. And I'm curious, for those of you who've come in here, are you team New Year's resolution setter or are you team no New Year's resolution setter? Put it in the chat, and there's no beef. There's all love, no judgment, or no beef either way. And either way, whether or not you set New Year's resolutions or if you are one to not set New Year's resolutions, today's conversation is for you. So, now, with that, I just want to say that I do want to hear from you all. So, as you're coming in, please put in the chat where you're coming from, and how you did over the New Year's, if you went out, and how your New Year's celebration was for you. Okay, but regardless, I really love hearing from you guys. So, if you're coming in here, please put into the chat where you're joining from. And again, team New Year's resolution setter or no New Year's resolution setter. I want to know in the chat. Okay, so again, officially it is 2025. And usually, around this time of year, there's excitement for the new year. It's like a blank slate and an opportunity for us to do the things that we had originally set out to do, or do things that we haven't done that we set out to do. And for some of us, it's an opportunity for us to get back on track after we've fallen off, right? Like as we know, the holiday season can be very challenging for us to stay on track, and it's a really busy time of year. And that actually brings me to a question that I got in my community. That actually gets me started. Hello, got some people coming in. Hello, are you? All right. Nice to see you all. If you're joining in, please put in the chat where you're joining from. I love to see where people are coming from. But with the New Year's, we're talking about change, and it gets us in this mindset of change. We're thinking about things that we haven't done, that we had intended to do throughout the year. Again, the holidays are a busy season. So for many of us, when it comes to our health, it's often a very common time that we kind of fall off on our health habits. And that segues me into a question that I got within my membership community. And I'm going to read it here. The question that came into my membership community was, hey, Jessica, any tips or advice on how to get back into a healthy, consistent routine after a bit of a break? And to that, I say, yes, I do have some advice for that. And setting goals is one of those ways that can be helpful in getting you back on track. And today's discussion will actually answer this very question, as we're focusing on making, again, 2025 your year. In particular, we're discussing a mindset shift to help you establish goals and resolutions that you can actually stick to. So the data shows that, I'm trying to pay attention to the chat. It's a little bit, okay, alrighty. Data shows us that for many of us who do set New Year's resolutions, there's a high majority of those New Year's resolutions that are focused on health habits or healthy, improving health, right? And as you may or may not know, unfortunately, the rate of success for New Year's resolutions is pretty low. There's actually a big drop off within the first week of New Year's resolution. So from what I was reading to prepare for this live, approximately 23% of people abandon their resolutions within the first week. And then only approximately 35% will continue on past that first month. So that's a pretty steep drop off. But data further shows that only about 9% of people who set resolutions successfully keep their resolutions for the entire year. So that's a pretty low percentage. Of the people who do set New Year's resolutions, there's only 9% of them actually end up sticking to them by the time the year ends. Now, I am not picking on those who tend to set New Year's resolutions, because whether or not you set New Year's resolutions or you're one who tends to create ongoing goals throughout the year, the follow through is what can be tough for most all of us. So today we're focusing again on methods to improve your success rates of your goals or New Year's resolutions for those who set them. Okay. All right. So get ready in the chat. Okay. So we have someone joining from Bangladesh, Kids Story Channel. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you supporting the channel and adding to the chat. So get ready in the chat because we're going to talk about, we just talked about how sharp a drop off we can get for those who create New Year's resolutions, with only 9% of those individuals sticking to those resolutions by the end of the year. So I want you in the chat to tell me, what do you think are some of the common reasons that there's this sharp drop off, or that there's this low percentage of people who actually follow through on their goals? Okay, and I'm gonna talk through 10 of the most common reasons, and I want to kind of see if we're thinking along the same lines, or if you guys are bringing up things that are that I didn't consider. So one reason that people kind of fall off their New Year's resolutions or abandon their New Year's resolutions is because we're setting unrealistic goals. All right, so we can be overly ambitious when we're setting our goals, and we can aim pretty high, and we set these goals that are very difficult to attain, or we tend to try to set them for to achieve them within such a short period of time, right? Like losing a lot of weight within a very short window of time. These goals are not realistic or feasible, and therefore we can become discouraged and abandon those goals. The second one is lack of creating specific goals. So lack of specificity. We can create very vague resolutions, like goals such as just a blanket category of I want to get healthier or I want to lose weight. So we're creating really vague goals and not really creating the action steps behind achieving that goal. And we can struggle to execute these goals when they're so vague. Number 3 is lack of immediate results, right? So our impatience can be our hindrance there. We often can expect really quick results, and we can become discouraged when we don't get those goals, or if we're seeing slower progress than we originally anticipated. So that can be a reason why we abandon our goals. Number 4 is poor planning. And if you've been on these lives or been watching my channel, you know that I love to plan, and that's one of those things that I harp on is planning. So if we go into our goal setting with no strategy on how we're going to implement our goals, or even importantly, no strategy for how we're going to get back on track, right? Because life happens, and we can set a goal and we can even set an intention and a plan, but again, life gets in the way. And if we don't have a plan for how we're going to mitigate that obstacle, then that can cause us to throw the goals to the wayside. Number 5 is lack of motivation. So oftentimes we can set goals for external reasons or due to external pressures. So we're setting these goals to make others happy, or we're setting goals because that's, societal expectations. And this can be less likely for us to maintain these goals because they're not coming from an intrinsic source. They're not coming from within. Number 6 is overwhelmed by life challenges, right? We're overwhelmed by the amount of lifestyle changes. So this can come into play when we're aggressively habit stacking. We're trying to change too much too fast, and we can become burnt out and overwhelmed. And that can happen shortly after we, start trying to make all of these changes all at once, and can contribute to us abandoning those goals. Number 7 is lack of support. So we don't have any accountability or support, right? So without a support system or someone to hold us accountable, sometimes we can be more likely to give up. And then just not having that support from like friends, family, or a community of other people who are kind of doing similar things as you can make it hard for you to stick through with the goals you have intended for yourself. Number 8 is we're forgetting or neglecting progress monitoring. So if we're not tracking, we can, in failing to track our progress, it can seem like we're not making much progress, especially for those small wins. If we're not keeping an eye on them or paying attention to them, it can seem like we're not making progress at all. And that can give us a tendency to kind of ditch or bail on our goals. If we're just looking at the finish line, but we're not seeing, where we are from the start, all that progress we've made to get from start to finish, if we're not paying attention to that, it can seem like things are moving very, very slowly. And that can be discouraging. Number 9 is a big one. It's stress and life events, right? Like we have competing priorities between work, our family life, and our social life, right? And this can all, like when life interferes, it can derail us from our intended goals and our progress. And then there's the emotional stress that comes with dealing with the stressors of life, work, family. So those things can make it those things can make it harder for us to stick to our resolutions or our goals in the midst of dealing with those stressors. And number 10 is a very common one that I've talked about before, but it's that all or nothing, all or none mentality that's rooted in perfectionism, right? So if we have a single setback or a single setback, and it can cause us to just derail or feel like we've failed completely in our attempts, and that can cause some of us to abandon our efforts. So those are some of the most common ones. I'm going to scroll and see what you guys put in the chat, if there was anything that was different. Okay, so I'm not seeing much of anything different there. So I want you to try to find a common thread amongst those things that we just talked about as the common reasons why we abandon our goals early on. What I picked up on when I was looking at this list is that most of these reasons are reasons that deal with dealing with the resistance or the friction that we hit when we work towards following through on our goals. And the friction and the follow through focuses on the how of how we get to our goals, right? And figuring out the how to get to the goal is very important. Undeniably, we have to know what we're doing, right? You can say, Jessica, of course, if I don't know how I'm going to get to my goal, then I'm not going to ever achieve the goal, right? Yes. So the how is important. But what if I tell you that focusing on the how is actually kind of putting the cart before the horse, right? My position is that we first have to decide wholeheartedly to make the change. Okay, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time here, and this is the mindset portion. I'm going to spend a little bit of time here because I believe it is very important. But I think that we can often breeze over it. We can have this tendency to be inconsistent and with our actions, right? And be a little bit impulsive when we go into setting our goals or New Year's resolutions for those who set resolutions. And as we discussed, when we're inconsistent or if we're focusing on the wrong things, these can create these scenarios that we just outlined below that contribute to us being derailed from hitting our goals. So I want to first, we talk about deciding. I feel like deciding is an area that we really need to focus on. And when we think about the word decide, it comes from the Latin word of, I'm going to mispronounce it because I don't speak Latin, but it's decidere, right? So it's composed of the prefix de, meaning off or away, and the second part, sedere, which means to cut, to strike, or to, I won't say the other word, but it literally translates to cut off, to settle, or to determine. So in this context, the word decide means to cut off other options, implying a process of narrowing down choices and making a definitive resolution. So over time, this has come to mean to refer to the act of making a choice or a judgment after considering all other options. So what I'm trying to impress upon here is that making a decision is meant to hold significant weight, right? It's basically a commitment. We're committing to ourselves. When we're creating goals in the context of our health, we're committing to putting our health first in a specific way, right? Which is the goal that you set for yourself. So the next question that I have is, how do you make a good decision to base your goals or your resolutions off of that's going to stick, right? And this is the part where I really feel like mindset comes into play. One effective way to make these decisions is through deep focus on your why or your desire, right? Your desire that drives your decision on creating your health goals in the first place. I feel like this is very important to focus on before you focus on how you're going to do something. You got to really focus on why you want to make this change, right? You have to really decide if this is truly what you want and why. And yesterday I made a video where I touched on this in particular, because as I said before, Many of us, we go into setting New Year's resolutions or goals that have to do with our health, on improving our health. And if you're subscribed to my channel, and for many of you who are actually here on this live, you have your health in mind. And when you're setting these goals, they're geared towards improving your health. And I truly want you to be successful as you're creating these goals, which is why I'm on this live in the first place. So, for example, a intention or a desire or an intention that is rooted in something that is substantial to you and very personal could be something such as, I want to improve my health to prevent chronic disease so that, God willing, I can live a strong and healthy life with my loved ones and fulfill my purpose. And this is my why, and it's very meaningful and powerful to me. I've personally lost family, loved ones, my father and my grandmother in particular, too soon, too early to preventable chronic conditions. And I don't want my son to have to deal with that loss. God willing, I want to live a long and healthy life so I can be here for him and fulfill my purpose. But I also know that I have to do my part and be a good steward of my body, right? So for me, that is a very strong why, and it's a very strong and powerful intention, strong enough for me to set goals that I tend to attain because of that strong why. So basically what I'm saying is the decision needs to be rooted in a strong enough why to set you off on the right track. This is going to give you the foundation to weather the storm of what's to come. And what's to come is the follow through. And that's all the friction that we meet when we're actually doing the work to achieve our goals. So on to that part, the friction. If you think about change requires change. It sounds obvious, but it's the case, right? We have to change in order to change, and change is not easy. And you're gonna butt up against the resistance. And even when we truly want something, there can be several reasons that are getting in the way of how we deal with that resistance and the friction involved with changing our behaviors. Again, earlier in this conversation, I listed off 10 of the most common reasons that all deal with that friction of follow through. For some of us, there are some pretty big limiting beliefs that are getting in the way. And this is limiting beliefs regarding our worthiness or our ability to actually achieve the goals that we set out on. And when you're dealing with limiting beliefs, that's going to require a lot of introspection and work for you to overcome those limiting beliefs. Then there are those factors that I listed in the beginning of this discussion, and those are the ones that commonly lead us to abandoning our goals and our resolutions, right? And those are the ones that are involving that friction in the follow through. And the factors that are dealing with the friction and follow through, I have some help for those. For those factors, I do want to offer some support. For the internal factors of dealing with our limiting beliefs, you are going to have to do the deep work to really think and introspect or think inwardly on why you're feeling as if, even though you have this strong desire, you might be feeling like you're not worthy of, let's take, for example, weight loss. Like you're not worthy of losing the weight, or you're not worthy of becoming healthy. Or you might have the limiting belief that because certain things run in your family, so too is your destiny. And that's not the case. So when we have these limiting beliefs, we can be unknowingly sabotaging our efforts. But that's on you to look inwardly and see where are these thoughts coming from, right? When you set a goal and you are inspired and you're motivated and you're thinking about making positive changes and you get excited, that's good and that's true. But then when you start having these limiting beliefs that pop up where you start thinking, oh, I'm not worthy, I'm not worth it, or it's never going to happen for me, those create negative emotions that you can feel. Like it doesn't feel good when you start having those thoughts. And that's a sign when you start having these thoughts that don't feel good when it comes to you trying to achieve something that you've set out for, that's a sign that is a limiting belief. And it's really important to focus in on that thought, find out where it's coming from, and ask yourself, is this true? And on the surface level, sometimes it can seem like it is true. Well, yeah, I might have a family history of certain things. But is it really true that also has to be your fate, right? And that's the deep dive. And when it comes to the follow through, I have a plan or I have a suggestion. I've created something that I want to help. And it's a 7-day challenge. It's my free metabolic health 7-day starter challenge. And the goal of this challenge is to help you create and effectively implement sustainable, healthy habits. I'll also be providing like digestible and practical education on the metabolic health basics because I truly believe that knowledge is power and it's really important. There's so much information out here on what to do to be healthy that sometimes it can just keep you at a standstill. There's this analysis paralysis because you're not sure quite what to do. So that's where the education component comes into play. I want to give practical education and advice on the actual health steps to take as it relates to improving your metabolic health. All right, so the 7-day challenge, each day will include a specific focus on metabolic health. And we're gonna, each day will include a specific focus. We're gonna have actionable tasks with each day and a little bit of education to ensure you leave the challenge. I want you to feel motivated and well equipped to continue your health journey and achieve your goals well after the challenge. Okay, so it's really designed to help set you up for ongoing success with your goals throughout the year. So it's not just 7 days of doing something, it's something that's meant to be progressed to set you up for success to progress throughout the year. All right, so again, each day we're gonna focus on a different topic to include things like mindset, nutrition, physical activity, sleep, stress management, social connection, and even the planning portion. And each day of the challenge will have a video associated with that challenge, and it's going to be put into a playlist here on YouTube. So if you can't be present for the live premiere of the video, don't worry, it's going to be in a playlist. So I would want you to please subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss, and hit the bell, to be notified so you don't miss when I upload the videos, especially during this challenge. And if you're someone who is interested in ongoing or further support, more than what a challenge can offer, like a free challenge can offer, and support ongoing throughout the year, I want you to consider joining my membership community. It's a community through school, and our community is for busy human beings such as myself. I am a busy solo parent, work full time, and I also deal with the challenges of being consistent with my healthy lifestyle. And that's what our group is. It's a group of people who are trying to do the same thing, working towards similar goals, with the focus on improving our metabolic health so that we can prevent, reverse, or put into remission certain chronic conditions. And I also share within my group, I share more support regarding nutrition resources, physical activity resources. People who are in my community have access to a fitness app, and I'm able to program workouts there and provide meal planning support, recipes, to really help create a supportive network and resources to keep you along the way, right? I really want everyone in my community to be successful with their health goals. Now, if that's something that interests you, I'm going to put the information in the description box below so that you can check out the community and you can get on board in there if that's something that's interesting to you. Now, but again, this challenge is a free challenge, so it'll be accessible to you through my YouTube. So again, it'll be a playlist. So you just need to subscribe so you're notified every time I upload one of the videos that are going to be associated within the challenge. All right. That is what I have for you today. Now, I know you're hearing me talk about metabolic health, and I've mentioned it a couple times. And if you're not sure what that is or why I'm talking about it, I've made a couple of videos regarding metabolic health that's very important, in my opinion, as many of the chronic conditions that we have that are on the rise today are rooted in poor metabolic health. And that is why I focus so heavily on creating healthy lifestyle change that is geared towards improving metabolic health. So you can look either in a description box or when I upload this, it'll be right at the end of this video. You can click the playlist that I have for metabolic health. And I'm gonna go take a look again through the comments to see if anyone had any questions. Okay, so I go live here regularly. So again, if you want to be notified, I'll usually post the live announcement a day or two prior to me going live. But again, if you're subscribed, you'll get notified. And during these sessions, I do like to offer an opportunity for people viewing to ask questions. So if there's areas of your health or goal setting that you're butting up against challenges, you can feel free to comment in the chat where your challenges are. And if there's time, I answer. But I do have priority question answering to members of my community. So if you were here earlier, you'd have heard me call out the question that I got from my membership community. And that's what these lives are for. I answer the questions, and then there's usually like some type of education or announcement that I'm making on these lives, or just information or motivation to support us throughout as we're making health goals and as we're on our own health journey. So I'm here for support. All right, so we are just about at our 30 minutes. I usually like to keep these lives to about 30 minutes. So I'll give an opportunity for anyone in the chat if there's any questions or any challenges that you're feeling right now. I know it's the new year, so many of us are just setting our goals, setting our New Year's resolutions. But the goal is that this video was to help support you in making New Year's resolutions or health goals that are going to stick, right? Because we talked about the sharp, steep drop off of New Year's resolutions after the first week, after January 7th, and after the end of January, all the way up until the end of the year. So those who are making goals or those who are making New Year's resolutions by the end of the year, only 9% have stuck to those resolutions. And I really don't want that for you. I want you to set goals that you could actually achieve and attain.